But yeah, so our goal is to get these textures onto this character. So for our nice little beauty render, our little vanity render, and it's pretty easy. Just file, export textures, boom, right there. And then you're looking for PBR metallic roughness, just this default one. You don't, there's like another PBR. Yeah, you don't want to do like USD PBR, or you just want the basic PBR metallic roughness. It's like the default setting on this. And then you're basically just going to go to your folder. Make sure it ends up in your hierarchy, in your little project hierarchy, in your source images. Because if you need to render somewhere else, as long as those source images are in your project file and like Maya's set up for it, like it'll render out fine on someone else's station. That's why when we bring in a lot of other rigs, they don't show up properly. We have to like forward those channels ourselves, you know. It's because they were working in like their own project file, you know. But yeah, so there we go. Source images, set up, size. Try to make them as big as you can. 2048 is plenty fine for me for this guy. This is what it was tailored to. Like that's the settings. And then you just click export, boop, and then it's going to spit out a bunch of different maps in there. Get your base color, emissive for the glowy little glowy bits right there, and then height is that's not as important. We're not doing any sort of displacement in Maya, but we have our metallic, normal, and roughness. And so we have all of those files, right? And then what we need to do is right-click, assign a new material, and then go to Arnold. We're looking for AI standard surface, and that's gonna work nicely for us. Make sure you crank up the weight on the color channel, because if you don't, it's just gonna not take in everything you've painted in there. And then first step, we got to forward that color channel with this little checker box, right? We want this color channel to link up to a file. We want to link up to a file, and then you just click the little folder icon that pops up there. And we're looking for, wait, is this the right folder? 46 screen, yep, looks like it. Base color, no, it's a different project. Let's see. Is this the one? Wait, no, this isn't the right one. Am I in the, oh man, did I export it to the other classes? Source images? Yeah, I did. Well, that's tragic, whatever. You guys wouldn't have that problem because you wouldn't have multiple project folders in your Maya, but yeah, so I'm just gonna hook up base color to that. And it just pops up in there, and you'll see in the viewport, if you press 6, after you forward that, it's gonna show up. And then we just need to do that with everything on the like all the other material channels. So metalness, we need to do the same thing. We're gonna go to File, and we're gonna go to Image Name. We're gonna look for metallic, perfect, and it'll show up black in the viewport. That's fine. That's fine. That's just how it works. And then you can go back to hold right click and go to material attributes again. It's probably the fastest way for us right now. And then roughness channel. We need to forward this to another file. And then image name, roughness, perfect. And a couple more, just back to material attributes. It's the fastest way when we're starting out here. And then emission, we're going to first in the color channel, we're gonna forward that color to a file, and it's gonna be our emissive. Boom, perfect, perfect. And you'll see it didn't show up. And what we need to do is crank up the weight in there. It's the same exact concept as with the base color weight. Like all these weight channels just tell Arnold whether or not to turn on those channels underneath it. So if you turn it down to 0, it's going to be like, oh, I'm not going to turn on anything. But yeah, so put the weight there. And then one last one for the normal maps, because we have in here we have some cool detailing on this stuff with like this like painted on sort of detail. In order to get that in there, we're going to go to the geometry tab, bump mapping, file, and this is only if you have a normal map. If you don't, then that's fine. If you do have a normal map, when you click that little forward tab, it's going to bring you to this menu, 2D bump attributes. Use as bump. Do not do that. Use tangent space normals. That's going to be a gotcha. Someone in here is going to have a normal map, and they're going to be like, why is it not showing up? It like shows up, but it's like weirdly inverted and stuff. Make sure you're using tangent space normals. Boom. And then for bump value, click that little arrow, and then hook up the file with it. Hook that file up. Boom, normal, right there. Perfect.
Mike, just for the sake of the recording, can you go over that step again?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So let me go over that and just completely disconnect that channel. So if I right-click this and do break connection, it's not going to remember any of that. It's going to be back to normal. But yeah, so for if you do have a normal map, open up your geometry tab, bump mapping, click the little forward box for the checkerboard right there, and then you're going to click a file and change this. This is the important one. Change this to tangent space and normals. Boom. Then you can click this little forward icon for the bump value, because we need to plug in our normal map to that value. That's the one that we're passing to that. And then click the little folder for the image name. And last step, normal. Boom. Now there is one additional step that we need to do for this. And I find it's easier to do in the, we could do it throughout this. It's basically, we just need to change our color spaces on some of these to raw instead of sRGB. Color space is like kind of how it keeps track of colors between programs and stuff. It can be very annoying to deal with. But if we go up to Windows, Rendering Editor, Hypershade, we can see like this is a nice little peek behind the scenes of it. So let's go to material attributes. Let's rename our shader. Just like it's an AI standard surface. Let's do blue armor. And then in here, we're going to be looking for that blue armor shader. Let's see, in our materials panel. So blue armor right here, exactly what we're looking for. And I just selected that. And then you're going to click this button. And you can see all of the nodes that we just set up. So let me expand this. Let me get this larger for y'all. And this is again a node-based shader editor in here. We don't really need to know much about that at this point, but you can see how it's plugging in everything into the different channels. Like this is our little emissive, the glowy bits on the armor right there. That's the emissive. The normal is all like the shading detail on it. The metallic is how that metal reacts with the lighting and how it takes that in and how that mixes with your roughness and color maps. So basically we need to do a few things in here. Pretty simple, where just find your roughness and metallic. And I like to expand the out color, and I like to just like this out color into the little different channels. I like to just take the red and instead plug that into our specular roughness. You'll see that the alpha doesn't take that, and that's because when we bake out those textures, I believe it bakes it onto the RGB channels. They should all read the same, and we can just plug that into those values. And then one last detail on you click on the roughness.png color space, change that to raw. Boom. Metallic, click on that one as well. Change that color space to raw. And Make sure alpha is luminance, just to make sure. That will, I think that will allow that out alpha to work for you if that's not coming across. And then emissive is fine, base color is fine, and then make sure your normal map, the normal.png, it's labeled nicely once we connect it in there. Make sure that's on color space raw as well. But yeah, and then that is set up for that. That's like how you get those textures on there. That video that I linked in resources right here, exact same method. So, oh man, someone's sneezing on Zoom. We're gonna get allergies from y'all. But yeah, so that's how you set those up. And oh, Luis, how could you? Oh, you're good. But yeah, so now with all these channels, nah, it's all good. Don't worry about it, man. With all these channels forwarded now, we can render out our character, and it will look very nice. It'll look just like this once we get our lights in there. And so let's go to Arnold, and for a basic setup like this, you might want to just set up your lights. You could do like either a photometric, or I mean a physical sky light or a sky dome light if you have an HDRI image that you want to use. I like area lights as well. Let's just do a physical sky. I don't think we've popped this open in front of you guys yet. We probably have, actually, come to think of it. But yeah, and then we can open up Arnold's render view. What makes it physical? It's like mathematically physical sky. Like it's bringing in a lot of real world principles to it. Like because you can, it's basically a sun that is in like a sky that's orbiting around. Let me just press play so you can see what it's going to render out. Wild. There we go. And the reason they call it physical is because it's like it's taking into account like the atmosphere. So if you bring it lower to the horizon, it'll get more red because it's like thinking about how much like of that horizon line it's kind of shooting through. But it is just real simple to get in there. It's just like one click. But looking pretty good. I also like to get some sort of just pedestal that they're standing on, some sort of presentation in there. So let's pause the render view while I set this up, because I want him to feel like he's standing on something in there. And you could put in some little fake environment. Oh man, some little environment that you downloaded up from TurboSquid. Oh my god. All right, Maya is being very uncooperative. Maya, please. I'm just closing this Arnold render view because it's being annoying. All right. So I like to just get a cube in here, Boop. Now he's standing on that. And I like to get one of these little disk boys. You can also go to create polygon primitive disk. And I like to scale this up. And then you're going to see that I bring the scale up quite a bit. So I would just take all these channels. I'll make them like 10,000 or something. Boom. So it just expands really, really far off into the horizon there. And let's turn on my film, my resolution gate so I can see exactly what I'm rendering. There we go. Nice. And let's pop open Arnold render view again. And then press play. Let's see what we got going on. Yeah, looking pretty sick. Looking pretty sick. You can see how long it's taking to render this out. You can see that as we render, it gets less and less blurry in there. And let's see. So that it's considering this done. We're gonna need to crank the samples up on some of this to get it to be not as fuzzy. And I'm going to talk about that as well. But I want us to just sit here and think, okay, so that frame took 20 seconds right there. That was one frame, one light, 20 seconds for 1080p image, which is what we're going for. So if I was to, and we have 40 frames here, and I think it's spinning too fast right now. I'd want it to be at least 3 times as slow. So that 40 would instead turn into 120 frames, right? So 120 frames times 20. Let's whip out our calculator. 120 frames times 20. Boop. 2,400. So let's divide that by 60 to see how many minutes that is. So 40 minutes. So if I was to just go with my default, no extra settings in here, really fuzzy render, it would be 40 minutes. So keep that in mind. 40 minutes for that scene. My only one experienced a bit of lag on the Zoom call. I think my internet is dying again. Oh, let me know, guys, because I want y'all to see what I'm doing. Mic got a little bit staticky for me, but that was it. Oh, okay. Yeah, my internet is garbage, so could definitely be me. Am I good now though, guys? Am I good? You good? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Dope. Okay, so now let's see how long it would take if we're going to use actual settings for this. So I'm gonna leave this open. I'm gonna pause it though. I'm just gonna press the stop button, and I'm gonna go into Arnold. I want to get like a little bit of a rim light in here, so I'm gonna go create an area light, and we're just gonna move this up. I'm gonna scale it up as well, then rotate it so it's aiming a little bit at the back of our character. Let's get that in there. And I'm going to go to, every time you have to create one of those lights, it's most likely going to be too weak. So always go to the attribute editor on that light, find the default, like the little area light shape 1, crank up the intensity a little bit, and crank up the exposure to like 10. Boom, right there. And then let's see what this looks like. Oh my God, 1 second. Still not getting that rim light in there. Let's pump up the intensity. It's coming in a little bit now on there. Let's pump up the exposure. I'm liking that pretty good. And then, so now let's see, with that extra light in the scene, how long is it going to take to render out? Still cranking away. So about 21 seconds. About 21 seconds with that added light, but it's still a little bit fuzzy. So what we need to do is turn up the samples on these. So I'm going to go into that sky dome light shape, and then here you can see samples. Let's crank this up. Oh no, sorry, Maya's dying right now. Okay, sorry, 1 second. My computer is freezing up. I'm going to close Substance Painter. Saying a prayer for your tower. Yeah, it is heating up back there. Let me make sure. I might as well close all this too. Folk. There we go. All right, so samples 4. Let's press play on this. So I'm just gonna wait for this to finish rendering the scene. You can see it's going through and making those a little bit less fuzzy with that higher sample rate on the lights. Looks so cool with the lights, right? That's why we got to get them in there. But yeah, so now with that higher sample rate, it's getting a little bit less fuzzy. I'm going to need to increase the sample rate on, or the samples on that backlight as well, but we're at 33 seconds. So let's crank this up. Yeah. Lighting is actually the electrical fire. I hope not. I hope not. So we're 60, 70% done. There we go. 41 seconds now. 41 seconds. So it's taken some more time, y'all. It's taking more time. So we can also, like, these edges are getting a little bit fuzzy too. They look pretty good in, we're zoomed out. Imagine leading an army with all T-pose soldiers. Yeah, what if that was the salute for some sort of army? I have a little program that tells me how hot my CPU is in the system. And it's fun to watch it climb by like 20 degrees when I open Arnold's wall. Yeah. Now, Arnold uses the CPU unless you tell it to use the GPU. If you do have a good GPU, you can definitely use different settings. And I'm about to go into the settings, so I'll touch on that as well. But if you have a good GPU, you can speed up this process. But you do have to crank up some settings as well to compensate. But yeah, so as I was saying, it's like a little bit, some of it's a little bit fuzzy still as well. So you can go into Windows, rendering editors, render settings, or render settings is also just available on this little handy button right here. It's the little clapping board with the little gear on it. Either one's going to open up your render settings. And here's like the default or my settings right now. For the image format, EXR is like pretty high detail. There's a lot of data that it bakes into there. But you can use like a PNG as well if EXR is not working for you. But I'll leave it on EXR because it's fine with that. But yeah, so just some like basic settings, not for animation. We have to do a few other settings in here with like the frame range stuff, but just for basic stuff, you're just looking for 1080p. Please do 1080p. Don't do 540. I think it might default to 540, and then look at how tiny your video will be when we bring it into like the class reel. So then everyone else's would be like, everyone else is going to be full screen, and then it's going to be like, oh, okay, and then your video would be like half the size of everyone else's. So please, I'm going to pause the render. So please do 1080, HD 1080. That's what we're looking for in there. That's 100% what we're looking for in there. And then also in Arnold Renderer, there's a setting Camera AA. The more you crank this up, the less fuzzy it will get as well, but it will dramatically increase the render time. So now if we do some, if we start a render up, it's gonna be cranking in there. It's gonna be cranking. So I'm gonna let that simmer for a little bit. But check out system in here. If you have a good GPU, you could switch render device to GPU in here, and it will go a lot faster, but you'll have to crank that camera AA up even more. But it will still be faster. However, when you do first switch to it, it takes like the first time I clicked on that, it took my GPU to take off the stratosphere to render with. Hell yeah, it's ridiculous. But yeah, so now the render is done. Render is done, and it's looking pretty clean. Looking pretty clean. And let's expand this. Not close it. Looking pretty nice. No, it's not looking as nice. 1 minute 33. So it took a minute 33 to render that out. And let's go back to our little calculator. Oh, did I close calculator? Oh man, yeah, taking up so much RAM, that heavy calculator. Oh no, how could it? So I was saying 120 is probably a good like frame range for this, 120 frames. And then let's do times. This is 1 minute 33 seconds. So let's do 93 seconds. So that's what it would be. So 93 equals 11,160. So let's divide that by 60 to find out how many minutes that is. 186 minutes. So divide that again by 60. Boop. 3.1. So it'd take 3.1 hours for me to render out my scene like this with this lighting. So yeah, if you have a longer scene, then it's gonna take even longer than that. But yeah, so don't mess around with the remaining time, y'all. Like this, you could easily just set up a render and do it overnight. I'm going to show you guys how to sort of start spitting out those frames from it. But you could set up a render overnight and then just come back to it in the morning and be like, I got all my frames. So yeah, don't leave this to last minute. But yeah, what's up?
Oh, just for clarification. So now you're showing us to pretty much spin the camera, light it, and this is all setting up for the reel, correct? And
exactly.
Is this going to be for every single thing that we've turned in for your class? Are we going to rotate it, or?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Okay.
Yeah, it gives it a nice like finalized look to it, like that first sculpt we did of like the head, then the character, and then if you textured the shield, I'd like to see both of those. You know, you could throw both of those in there. Maybe not spin it as slow, because then you're just gonna have like 3 slow orbiting objects in there. But yeah, like you're gonna have a clip of each different one of those. It'll just be a new scene with those in there, and then the animation as well.
Right. So that's what you meant by like the final reel, because I was like, okay, so we're spinning everything that we've made for this class. We're gonna compile it into a video, and then we submit it.
Yep. Got it. Exactly. It's exactly like those other reels that I showed. Do you remember those ones?
Yeah. I've just, like my brain is like really checked out right now. So I'm just double checking everything, just because I'm me starting the month off in the hospital, and I've never recovered ever since. So I'm just like, okay, that's what this is what you're talking about. Got it.
Yeah. No, it's good. I like questions too, because it's good to just build the dialogue with the class, and I'm sure other people are wondering the same thing,
Okay. So yeah. Just to clarify, everyone, you probably should start rendering this now. Yeah. Like every night, so that you have this.
And it would only take because it'd be the head, that would be one night, and then the shield, character or shield, that's another night, and then the animation, that's another night. So it's just 3 nights basically. But yeah.
Yeah, got it.
But yeah, so that's it for just getting a render. But now I want to talk about, because we need to get a bunch of renders out right now, right? We need to get the whole image sequence of that rotating camera, right? So if I close down Arnold so it's not whining while I do this, we need to get like this whole time range. We need to get that orbital camera in there, and we need to render out each frame of that. So I'll show you how to do that now. It's going to be partially back in the common settings of this with our frame range, and then it's also going to be with our render in our rendering menu render sequence, and we also have to set up that cam rotating in the first place. So let's first address the cam. How can I get this cam to sort of rotate around the character nicely? We could use that camera and aim that I was showing in the class before. However, we could also, if you wanted like a really clean rotation, one that's like pretty just flawless in terms of like how it's rotating around, there's a nice little trick. So if you go in, and first we have to create that camera that we're going to render from. So let's go to create. And if we go to cameras, and then we can just use a basic camera for this. We don't have to do a fancy camera and aim or anything, just a basic camera. Boom. Result camera 1. And let's switch our panel over to this camera now, the one that we just created. So if we go to camera, panels, perspective, camera 1, boom. We have nothing visually, but yeah, let's just zoom out. And we got a new camera in here. I'm going to activate that resolution gate so we can see exactly the framing of our character. Remember, this little light gray box is telling us exactly what we're going to see. It's like a viewfinder when you're like trying to compose something, you know, like this is basically telling us what Arnold is going to spit out when it's rendering. But yeah, so I like this sort of starting, like this 3/4 view, like this sort of starting area. And then what we can do is go to panels, let's switch back to perspective. Boom. So it's just slightly different. And you'll be able to see the camera in the viewport right there. It might be very tiny, so you can scale it up. And this would be a good time to press space and find another panel and make that camera, right? So now you have your real perspective camera right here, the one that you're navigating the scene with. You're able to like see everything. Then you have your camera that you're going to render from, like your animation. And this is what I was talking about when setting up the animated scenes. Like that's what my camera aim was. And I basically just don't touch that camera. I just animate from this perspective and then double check this frame to make sure it's exactly what I want. But yeah, so now what we do to get it to actually orbit around is you select that camera, boop, and then press Control G to group. And that's going to basically, if I open up my outliner for y'all, it's going to give you a group with that camera under it. So when that group moves, so does that camera. You see in that bottom frame, it's moving around in there. And what we can do is, we can double click on this and just be like cam orbit group. And you can click on that group. And what we need to do is now rotate this group. And as you can see that as we rotate it, it's going to spin around the character nicely. It's going to get that nice orbital feel to it. So what we got to do is on our first frame, select that group and press S to get a key in there. So now you're keying that group. And then go to the last frame. Let's go to frame 40, might as well. And then you're gonna basically just rotate it all the way around. That's a little bit imprecise, right? You're like, oh, how far is that going? If you look at your channel box, you're like, I rotated it -367 degrees. A whole circle is -360, right? So let's do -360 instead. Boop. So you're basically just putting the camera on a stick that spins it around. Exactly. This group is just spinning. Like there's no animation on the camera itself. It's just this group spinning that has it as a parent. And then now, when I play it, let's move my outliner over here. There we go. And my tangents are they're just the regular automatic tangents. So I'm getting that slow in, slow out. If you don't like that, if you want it to be at a constant rate, then what you can do is you can right click that key and just do tangents linear. right click select the last frame, and then right click it and do tangents linear as well. And then you just have a constant sort of speed in there. Now you'll notice that like your first frame and your last frame are a duplicate. So if you loop that, the audience might see that you have a duplicate frame in there. So what you can do is just make your scene just one frame shorter. Boop, right there. So that key is still on 40, but our last frame is 39. And then so that should now loop pretty seamlessly there. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for setting that up. And then if you're wondering how we get that render out of it, first go back to your render settings, or remember it's here on that gear, little clipboard with the gear, or Windows rendering editors, render settings. It's all those places you can find it. Make sure you're on Arnold renderer. Again, image format, you can do PNG or EXR. I like EXR because it has some extra info in there in case we need it. Spoiler alert, we probably won't. But yeah, and then renderable camera. This is important. Since we have multiple cameras in the scene, what we need to do is click the drag down, and camera 1, that's the one that we're going to render from. So make sure it's selected on camera 1. And then frame range, have start frame be 0, because that's our first frame down here. If your first frame down here is 1, like if these boxes are 1, then by all means put 1 in there. If you're doing a sick sort of cut, then what you would do is like render from one camera, from that start frame to whatever frame you want to cut on. You'd only render that much, and then you'd render a different renderable camera. On another night, you'd set that up, and you'd make the other renderable camera be like camera 2 for like a close-up shot or something. And then one last very important detail for in our frame extension right here, it defaults to like the default setting is like name, single frame. That's not going to do us any good. We have to get multiple frames. So what we want to do is name, and then hashtag. That means like it's going to, like when it outputs the file, it's going to be image, and then 001, and then .exr or .png. So click that. There's a bunch of different options in there for whatever you want, but I find this to be the most intuitive. It's just image and then number and then the extension, nothing else. And then that will all be set up, and then just double check your other stuff to make sure it's fine. I'm going to commit sacrilege right here because I'm going to render out this whole scene, but I don't want it to take 8 years. So I'm going to crank down my camera AA. So it's going to be super fuzzy. For final, I would leave it like 3, maybe 4 if you've got like a lot of time. But you can crank up the samples on the light instead. I'm actually looking forward to seeing a fuzzy render. Oh, well, you're gonna be excited then. But yeah, so I'll crank this down to 1, and then I'll do HD 540. I don't use 540 for your final render. That's gonna be disgusting. I don't want to see that. Please use 1080. I'm only using 540 because I want it to go fast, and I don't want to just be rendering in front of you guys forever. But yeah, so close that out, and then render, and then we're looking for render sequence. Let's go to the options on that. Boop. Render sequence. Current camera 1. Exactly what we want. We can put out we can put it out into a different file location. In fact, I probably will. Let's give this a go because I have a bunch of images in here already. So I'm going to do new folder, 426 render demo. There we go. Boop. Select, and then finally, so basically you have all of your render settings set up. You have your camera set up. It's going to render from that. You can double check the frame range up here, frames 0 to 39, so you know it's going to render out the frames that you want, right? And then you're probably sleepy, so then this is all set up at the middle of the night, and then what you'll do is just click render sequence and close, and then Maya's going to be doing this. Boop. And then you go to sleep.
Mike, do you know if we have to make sure our computer doesn't ever go to sleep, or will Maya just force it awake because it's doing this rendering?
Ooh, I don't know. I leave mine on all like just it's going to be on no matter what. So if it is going to do that, if it is going to try to go to sleep, I would try to like disable that option.
Okay. Just double checking because
that should be in the power settings. I don't know where it is on Mac, but that should be in the power settings on PC.
Okay.
But I have had computers go to sleep and still render out stuff, so I don't know. It's weird.
Okay.
But yeah, and so it's just, you can see it's going frame by frame, rendering it out. It'll just be a little bit fuzzy with that low camera AA setting. Use it as a space heater while you sleep. Honestly, right? Oh, if you're rendering in like the middle of winter, that'd be so sick. And we're about halfway done. I'll be sleeping next to my PC just in case.
I'm guessing doing like a low bit version render like this would be good if our computer can handle it. If we just do like half of the timeline, right? Just to see how it looks. Yeah. And then if we're satisfied with it, then we can do the full render afterwards.
Yeah, I would just, like when I'm like kind of like setting up a scene like that, I just do the single renders that you saw me doing with that Arnold render view.
Mm-hmm.
I just make it look like how I want it to look in there, and then yeah, and then I just render out the rest of the scene.
Are these just exporting these as image files? I know you said .exr.
Yeah, .exr is that's an image file. It has some like extra metadata on it for some like advanced rendering shit, but like you can just use a PNG if you want. You can just
I was also wondering about that.
PNGs.
Yeah, because like if you import it into After Effects, and then it'll force a PNG sequence, and it'll just make it into a video for you.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, we're gonna do the same thing with the EXRs as well. In a second.
Cool.
I'm glad I moved my computer out to the living room because I can't figure out how to turn the case lights off. And it looks like we are done. Looks like it is set up. It is giving me the wheel of death though, which is a bit concerning. A little bit concerning. Beep, 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 beep. But yeah. So now if I go into Windows, and then let's find where we were just rendering that stuff out. Should be in the course materials folder, 46 Spring. And then in your project folder, it will, if you just set up a default project and use the default like spit out location, it's going to go into your images folder here. But I specified in that render sequence to go into this folder, 426 render demo. And you can see a bunch of EXRs in here. Woohoo, hell yeah. And they're all numbered. So it starts off with 10,000, 10,001, 10,002, 10,003, all up to 10,039. And then what you can do is pop open Premiere. Good old Premiere. I'm sure you guys have done this at least in like Animation 1 or something with your images. Actually, I don't know if you guys even use like pencil on paper in your animation for Animation 1. I don't know if that's a thing anymore. I think it still is. I don't know. Yeah. Oh yeah. Huh. How do they do the downshooters when like you're not working on campus? How does that work? The only animation class I've taken is experimental animation. Ah, okay. But you've probably still done this then, because you take the pictures, and then I'm going to open up the same demo I was doing for the other class. But you just create a new project. And let me delete these. Boom. Yes, yes, yes. All right. And then you can just right click in here and go to import. believe you can double click in there too. And then it'll bring you to whatever folder you were last working in. This is not the correct one. It basically is though. It's pretty much the same thing, but we're looking for that folder that I spit out all those images into, which was 426 render demo. And then you click the first image right there, and then make sure you click image sequence, because that's going to tell Premiere that it's like, oh, these images go one after another, and then it's going to bring those in nicely as a video right there. You can see a little preview right there. He's spinning around, and boom, drop that in, and hell yeah, hell yeah. And let's just loop this now. So Control paste. Just loop it a few times. You only, since it's a loop, you can just render out one loop and then bring it to the start again. And there you go. And it's my playback's a little bit laggy, so you might seem a little bit stuttery, but it's looking fine. It's looking fine. And then what you got to do? Just put a little music on it. Like you can download some like royalty-free music. Video game music is also usually pretty safe unless it's like something from like Grand Theft Auto, which they like license music from there. So feel free to grab some music from somewhere. Don't use like some record label's music that's going to get instantly flagged if you try to upload that to YouTube. I'd also keep an eye on Nintendo stuff. They hate that. I've seen so many people using Animal Crossing music on like on their like just content though. Like they just use it because it's nice background music, you know. They hate that music. It's not like you're saying they just hate music. But yeah, they've gotten a little bit more litigious recently, or not recently. They've been litigious for a while, but yeah, they're always kind of weird. But yeah, so you can just find some royalty-free stuff, or some nice video game music. But yeah, you just slap that in there, and then yeah, that's one project down. You just do this same exact treatment with the head that you sculpted, and then your animation. You won't do a weird orbital camera for the animation though. That'll be like whatever camera you have in that scene. But yeah, and then you'll be set. You'll be set. It'll be nice and crispy. Remember, super important stuff. Just to give the rundown. Man, my cursor's being weird. It's like constantly in that circle waiting thing. But yeah, so once again, just going over really important settings. When we're doing the animation, make sure you're not on the single frames right there. Do name, number, and then extension. And then start frame, end frame, make sure that lines up with your start frame in there and your end frame right there. So start frame 0, because I'm starting at frame 0, end frame 39. Renderable camera, make sure that that's the camera that you're looking for. That's the one that you went to create. Camera, boom. Presets, 1080, make sure it's on that. Make sure you're on Arnold Renderer. Then click over that tab. Camera AA. I like to keep that like 3, maybe even 4 if I'm feeling fancy. Maybe even 5 if I'm feeling super fancy. Remember, you'll have to. Oh my God, which made some madness menu there. You'll have to crank that up even higher if you are using GPU instead of CPU. You'll have to crank that camera AA up even higher. And then on your lights attributes, go to the light itself. Crank up your samples. You can also crank up your volumetric samples as well for the bounce lighting in there. All that, yeah, you can just crank those settings up as well. I find it faster to reduce fuzziness by cranking these up rather than cranking up camera AA. They will both get rid of that fuzziness, but these settings will for sure do that. And then yeah, same with all of your lights in your scene. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. And then you're done. You're completely done. Yeah. Any questions about that? Any questions about rendering out of Arnold? Anything about the settings? Let me take a picture of this. I'm just going to take a screenshot and post that so you guys can see my settings that I'm using. It should be nice for y'all. Let's do new. And then render settings. I'm just going to circle the important ones, which is kind of all of them. There we go. There we go. There we go. And there we go. And then copy that there. And I'm going to paste that into Discord. I will paste this and I'll paste this in the resources right under this other guy. Render settings or common render settings. And let's go to the Arnold tab itself. Let's create a new one. In here. There we go. And then I'm going to copy that and paste that into Discord as well. Boop. So there you go. Nice, nice, nice. Awesome. Awesome. Also, I'm going to take a snip of sky down. There we go. And then samples. Also, a little bit of there. Volume samples as well. But yeah, there we go. Copy this and paste light settings. There you go. All right, your mouse drawing is so steady. That was I was surprised. I was fully expecting to botch that. But yeah, so that's it. That is it. How long in total? 30 seconds? Yeah, 30 seconds is a great goal. You could go a little bit shy of that maybe, like 20 seconds if you don't want to have a bunch of just like slow orbits. Like so yeah, you go a little bit under that if you want, or over that if you have like cool animation in there. That'd be super sick as well. I'm very down for that. But yeah, so that is it. That was the last lecture, everyone. You guys now know everything about everything. How does it feel? How does it feel, guys?
Ouch, my brain.
you guys know it all.
It's like, what was that? Wait, what?
what was all of that again? Could you?
We do?
Could you? Yeah, it doesn't feel like we do.
Sorry, I was staring off into space. What was that?
Can somebody check in my brain? I think I can't find it.
It feels like there should be more. Like that feeling of like, are you sure? Like, you sure there's not another page? Maybe another booklet on the side?
You're telling me that was an underwhelming finish? Oh man, I'll have to make it more theatrical for next class. Wait, give me a second.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. We have plenty. We have plenty.
But yeah, of course there's more stuff, but that's it for this intro class. Y'all have seen modeling, texturing, sculpting, animation, rigging, skinning. My God, it's been a lot of stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Now to do it all.
Now to do it all.
I was like, okay.
But yeah,
Just like,
was that cute?
it's very cool because like experiencing sudden change of heart, like maybe I want to make video games and not cartoons, but oh, my head.
Ooh, okay. That's all I can ask for is incepting some of you to convert to 3D. So.
Honestly, guys, you could do both. You don't have to choose.
True. True.
Mike, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
Why did you you worked for Ubisoft, right? They make God of War?
No, that was Sony.
Right? Sony.
Santa Monica Studio.
Why did you leave? If I can ask that.
The hours. It was like their first time doing like a next gen project on that console, and it was like they had to do a lot of new engine stuff, so then animation got fucked. Like we were working really late. Like me and my coworker were staying till like 2 a.m. pretty frequently, going home, coming back at like 10, and then just lather, rinse, repeating for a while. But that's not how every single job is. I want you guys to know. That was just because we were understaffed. It was a new engine, so we were getting a lot of work on the back end in comparison to a lot of people. And they hadn't managed a project of that scale in quite some time. So there was a lot of like we should have brought more animators on earlier. It was basically 5 animators that did the cinematics for that game. And it's like, if you look at the cinematics, it's like a fucking 4-hour movie. Like, so it's ridiculous. So yeah, thankfully we had mocap. We had our own mocap stage. So if we needed to shoot pickups, we could do that ourselves and then splice that into the scene. But yeah, so that's why I left. But
do you feel like the crunch was just because they were trying to work out all those new things and situations? Because I felt the same with like a first season of a show as well. And so it's not just video games, guys, it's also in animation.
Yeah.
So this is something you're just gonna have to, I'm not saying like be okay with it, but just know that could be in store for you. Because when there's a show trying to work out their production pipeline, and especially onboarding new tech, and then now it's in the pandemic, I think they've smoothed things out. But I can at least speak for an animation experience. When it's like multiple seasons and they know they have a smooth engine running, it's not that bad. But when it's like first time new tech, first time working with this stuff, or if they're trying to do 2 shows at once, which is for some reason I've always been on shows that were like felt like they're on fire. But anyway, like because like I was on Final Space season 1, so that's always rough for season, right? And then I was on BoJack season 5, which would have been a smooth engine, except they started Tuca and Birdie at the same time at the studio with the same production team. So they were like split. And then that was like, okay. And then I went to Cosmos season 2, which was run by Fox, which everything's always on fire by Fox. So, so it was just like, they never locked off an episode. So we were getting notes from episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, like it literally depends on the production crew, which is why you should always be very nice to them because they're dealing with scheduling nightmares.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was curious if it was like the same for video games as well. Like if it's like a second, then
100%,
it's like
a
lot smoother. Okay.
Because there's like tech for that, right? So like there was a lot of times when they were like blending into our cinematics and it looked really janky. So then we had to shoot pickups to accommodate a new system to smoothly blend into those cinematics with no like sort of feel of jankiness. And that alone just cost like hours and hours of time. So then it's like, it's just getting used to that. It's getting used to like just management and not hire. Like if they didn't hire enough people, then you're like, oh my God, we need to do this. And then, we did have outsourcing as well. So that was nice. But then we had to write notes for outsourcing, and we get outsourced material back. Looked garbage. We had to send it back out. We had to get it back. We had to fix it ourselves and then put it in.
Because they would outsource things that were lip sync completely off, right? Because they didn't speak English, so the lip syncing had to be all done in house. And so it was just like, well, and then so we would get something in compositing, which should have been already done, and we're like, oh no, we have to send this back to the retake animators because this is absolutely wrong. So that's just how that is the way the cookie crumbles, as they would say. But well, good to know. I'm just wondering, like all the people doing the post-mortem of how the first game went, they're just staring off into space. Like
there's a lot of bitter
drinking.
Bitter drinking. Well, a little bit sometimes, but we definitely gave it to them. we're like, yeah, you guys need to do something different for the next one. But
what we're saying is it's a miracle that anything gets made at all. Kiwi.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're saying the entertainment industry is held together with string? 100%.
Yes.
100% it is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But that's the magic. That's the magic of
Mhm.
it. And yeah, don't get me wrong, Santa Monica Studios is amazing. I would work there again in a heartbeat if I didn't have my own project that I was doing. Because I love the people. Like honestly, the people that you work with in the industry are just the best. They're so amazing. That's like my favorite part of it, because like we're all just animation nerds at the end of the day, you know, and so we most of the time get along really well.
It's like being college students but with money, you know.
Yeah,
you're still not sleeping. You
Still
still
not
have
sleeping.
deadlines.
Yeah.
You still are dealing with like crazy stuff that is being asked of you, but you're all
So
together.
So it's like being in college, but you're getting paid.
A lot
yeah.
more. Getting paid a lot more. And you don't have to pay the college. You yourself are getting paid. You're like, all right.
I like the sound of this. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, the people, like the people you work with is like the best, because everyone, you know, you're all suffering together. I don't mean to make it sound like terrible, but
there's like a camaraderie there. Yeah,
for sure. That's what I miss about the studio system, like 100%. Because when you're a teacher, it's like you're solo, you know, and then you meet another teacher. I'm like, oh, Mike, you're a teacher. I'm a teacher too. Oh my God, I met another one. You know, but we're always on like our schedules never line up, right? So we're always working like by ourselves. So, well, there you go.
But yeah, that's also, remember, if you didn't like a part of this class but you really liked another, you can just do that as your job. Like you don't have to touch rigging or skinning ever. Like I didn't do that at all at Sony. I was just, they sat me down to like move character. Yeah, I've said this a lot of times, Rachel.
I know, that's just sarcasm.
You sounded so desperate.
You did. I was like, oh my God, Rachel, you don't have to do everything. But yeah, you can just do one thing and just do it good. That's why I in computer animation 2, I just focus on what you want to focus on. So like, it's just like whatever you want to specialize in, that's what you pursue and that's what you go into. And you just work on getting some quality projects out of there.
Not gonna lie, I did change my mind about rigging a little bit. It kind of scratched that like problem solving brain that I like, you know?
Because it like starts to like come alive and you're like, oh, what the hell? It's like actually moving now. Like,
I'm like, wait, why is the arm bending that way? Oh, I made the weights too heavy on this side, so I have to go back and reduce it. And I was just looking at my own tutorials. I'm like, oh, okay, so that's how you put the value back to 0, and then you can repaint it again. Yeah, and all that. So
that's why I like the retopology for the same reasons. It's like solving problems on how the edge flow is. But yeah.
So there you go. Even though I told you, I was like, I never want to learn more than this, but now I'm like, oh, wait, I actually do like this a little bit. So yeah. Oh, man. There you go.
But yeah, so that was it. That was the last lecture. I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna animate a walk cycle with you guys. It's not gonna be anything like amazing, but yeah, I'll animate it there. I might render out that little gator guy that I was animating as well. Just to reaffirm everything for you guys, but yeah. Also, who's having the problem with the camera? Was that Kendall? I think that was Kendall, wasn't it? Kendall, are you here anymore? Kendall, did you pass out? I think Kendall's. I don't see Kendall in the Zoom call, but yeah. But yeah, so I hope her camera stuff is not causing problems anymore. But if it is, I'll take a look at that scene because I'm curious as well. But yeah, I'm also gonna go. If you guys have play blasted out your stuff, like your in progress animation, please upload that to the Sync Sketch. I think you have to create an account if you haven't already. It's super dope. It's an amazing website because we get to look at animation. Like we get to look at it together, and then we can also draw over each frame and be like, oh, how does this? It should be in more of this sort of pose or this sort of pose, you know. So we can do that. But that'll be like after we get back from break. But yeah. So is anyone running into problems animating? Because I'm sure it's very confusing because like there's just a lot of controls, lots of controls in there.
I might need some help with like the arm.
Yeah. Of course. What about it? What's messing with you?
So like I think we went over this last week. I was able to get the legs to move, but for some reason, like I believe I'm not touching the joints. I'm trying to get the arms to like move for some reason by using the joint layer.
Oh, don't use the joint layer.
Oh, the joint layer, or is the control layer?
Control layer. Yeah, you're always using controls. Actually, I have your rig.
Yeah.
So on my end, so let me pop that open.
All right.
Beep beep boop. Downloads. Tape modified. Here we go. There we go. So it's coming in like this. Let me delete this background.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what I'm expecting. You know, moves around nicely. Has the legs. This is how I'm moving the legs.
Okay.
One detail. Again, don't select these joints at all. Don't select these. Like we don't mess with those. In fact, we can just go to show and then turn off joints entirely, just so they're not in our scene at all. And then in order to move this around, you just rotate. Just select that little circle in there, press E to go into your rotate tool, and there you go.
Okay.
Is that working for you or no? Let me know if it's not.
Let me try it.
Yeah, give it a go.
Sorry, I think it's better if I just like share screen.
Yeah.
Okay,
let me stop my share so I can watch.
Okay, so not these. So these ones are like the control layer, right?
That's you don't have to select that control layer at all. You can just click them in the viewport. That's where you'll be doing all of your animating, is just clicking the stuff. So click that blue ring that you were just on.
This one?
Yeah, and then press E and then rotate.
Oh, okay.
And so that's what FK is. You remember when I was talking about FK versus IK?
Yeah.
FK is only rotation. So then rotate this arm right there, and there you
go. Okay.
Nice,
and the legs, I got how to. Yeah, I get how to do the legs.
The legs make more intuitive sense. Yeah.
And then to make him like crotch, what was that? How did you do that? The crotch, like bend or? Yeah.
So click that circle that's around the hips. Yeah, that one, and then press W. Oh, oops. Gotta select. You're selecting other stuff and see. Yeah. So and then just drag around on that control.
Oh, okay. I got it. All right.
Don't select that one that's like underneath the hips, but
so this one, right?
Yeah, that one's like that's like if you want to do a sachet on like a catwalk or something, which this guy probably won't do. But even then, I still don't really use that control as much. But yeah.
Pretty much just gonna make him do like a walk, like just walking downstairs, and like gonna make him like bow and like maybe like some kind of kung fu kick move.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, something like that. Or I forgot what the name of those like workout machines were. The ones where like they do the I forgot it's like a wooden post or something.
Oh,
I forgot what they're called, but
like the ones that have like the sticks poking out of it.
Yeah,
and then like.
Yeah, I don't know. That was another idea.
Like the training dummy type thing.
Yeah.
That's
gonna take a while, but I'll see what I can do them. All right. Yeah. Thanks, then.
Yeah. No problem. Also, Matt, remember? Let me share my screen.
Oh yeah. Something about the animation with the.
Well, just remember that like when you bend these feet. So let me put this back in a default pose. To kind of bend the knees, you just select these ones and then you move them with your W tool.
Okay.
You just move those around and see how it points at where that is in space.
Yeah.
So So that's how you'll kind of bend those knees at certain things, you know. But yeah,
Okay.
that's it. That is
Right.
it. Alrighty. Alrighty. But yeah, so I'm just gonna take it chill. I'm just gonna wait for like if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Kendall's back.
Oh, Kendall. Kendall, did you ever fix that camera thing? You started and updated my computer. So it's gonna take 2 hours to update. No. I'm on my phone right now. Oh God. Kendall, don't get your hopes up on that solution because it might not work. And it's always so sad when like you do a long fix like that and it doesn't work. But yeah, so I hope it works, but be
Mike?
prepared for the worst. What's up?
Can I have you look at mine? Like I'm on my phone, so I'll send it through the.
Yeah.
Do you want me to like the art sharing? Is that one?
The what?
The art sharing channel.
Yeah. Send the link there. Yeah.
Okay, I play blast it, but I'm just letting you know, I got so tired of having to just constantly go back and forth with fixing skin rates and like screw it, I'm just downloading a rig.
Oh really? Oh
yeah, I was just like, no, I'm done, I'm tired.
Oh, I told you
so many other projects.
I told you to stop fixing those skin weights. Like they weren't too bad. Like there was nothing.
I mean, I might use it later, but like for this, I'm like,
man.
you know what? It's a homework. It's an assignment. I should be fine.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I don't know how to rotate the knee. The controller wouldn't let me click. Tammy, are you like? Wait, what kind of rig are you using, Tammy? Is it like the class one, or is it a different rig? Because some rigs might behave differently, and I might need to see the rig itself. Could you send me whatever rig that you're animating on?
Okay, yeah.
And here's my email as well, in case it's too big for Discord, which is definitely possible. Amanda Animation. Oh, hell yeah.
I don't know how to end it because I want something like to end, but like I don't know how to.
Yeah. No, it's going along pretty nicely though.
Thank you. Not gonna lie, the reference I found, I don't know what it was. I think
Yeah.
it's supposed to be like some K-pop music video. I was like, oh, they're dancing, and I like the dance, and I couldn't figure out how to like pose her to get it right. So I'm just like, okay, just like kind of watered the poses down, and she turned into some form of ballerina. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I'm like wondering what she's doing, you know. This was my first, because I was like, it looks like some sort of ballerina thing. Like, what do you have the reference as well that we can see?
So looking at the animation and looking at the reference, I'm like, yeah, you wouldn't be able to tell that I used that reference because I think I just at some point just committed to be like, yeah, just make her into like a ballerina kind of poses.
Yeah. Well, I would get a little bit like in this pose, I would get this arm back here, probably higher up, to get like a more graceful sort of look. Right now, it's like she's doing some sort of kind of plain gesture. So let's get like something. If you're gonna commit fully to the ballerina, then try to get that going in there. The arc that this foot takes, it feels like you're using an IK control, because I can see it come out of that hyperextension here, and it pops on this frame right there, and then it goes down and sort of hits an angle right there. So that's you're witnessing the issue with using IK, is that it's great at getting that position of the foot, but it's hard. It's hard to make nice clean arcs with it. So it'll just take more keys in there to
Okay.
that. Be careful to not hyperextend the control right here as well, because see how it just kind of over one frame pops into extension. That's like
yeah, I don't know how to fix that.
You usually
like
have to move the so I'll just show you on the rig right here. It's basically, let's see, what pose are they in? Okay, so right foot down, left foot out. So they're doing this, and let's get that IK control up so it's not breaking. They're doing this, and let me just set a key, and then boom. So see how it extends and then locks out right there. We generally don't want to go past however far this knee can extend. So the way you fix that is just to bring it in slightly, and then yeah. So it's mostly a straight leg there, and you'll see that it's breaking again right there. So I'd have to fix this key as well. So it's just a balancing act of trying to bring that in as close as you can without hyperextending in there. So then now it's doing the same animation, but we're just not hitting that that snap, you know, where it like hits that straight angle in there, because yeah, animators are very attuned to looking for that. Also, again, you have a weird another hyperextension on this back leg right there. You'd have to get this front foot planted a little bit earlier, like a couple frames earlier, and then you could let go. You could push off the ground with that other one, so it doesn't do that big snap right there. Just sent the email. Nice. Menriette, that's you. What, do you recognize my name from somewhere? Unforeseen consequences. Do you recognize me? And then this pops again, so it's just a matter of bringing that foot a little bit closer to the waist. And then this blend, it looks a little bit unfinished. I'm sure you're going to do more stuff in there.
Yeah, that's like the ending. I'm not sure what to put there.
Yeah. Well, it's up to you. It's your scene. It's your scene. But yeah, I like that you're playing with the hands. It's getting it's playing. Yeah, lots of good stuff. I would say activate the clavicle a little bit on this pose right here. See how like her clavicle is like still coming forward, but then that arm is like being extended super far back. It's just kind of awkward. Instead, try to get that like see how when I do it, it kind of feels a little bit unnatural. Instead, you would use the clavicle control in there as well. How do you play blast again? I can answer that one real quickly style. Raphael, it's just right click your timeline and then play blast. Go to the options though, and then try to look for the encoding H.264 if you can, to keep that file size down. And then yeah, 1920 by 1080, and you should be good. You can just play blast. But yeah, overall it's looking great. It's looking great. I'm excited to see where the scene ends up. And yeah, good stuff. Good stuff, Rachel. All right. Did you have any other questions or comments, Rachel? Anything going on?
Well, that's it.
All righty. Sounds good. Yeah, if anyone else wants to send their scene to me, like a play blast of it, I'd be happy to check it out. Susie's got something going on. Hell yeah. Rocket in progress. Rocket Girl crash landed on an island. Ah.
Yeah, it's kind of rough so far, but
yeah,
got the general movements going down.
And then she just fucking gives up. Oh no. Rocket Girl, no. Yeah, so starting out, it looks like you're having that similar problem where this this screen left foot is a little bit hyperextended as well. I can see that IK controls on the ground, but the waist is just too high. You could lower the waist in this situation. Also, her posing is it's a little bit stiff. I would kind of get like almost that like break the silhouette a little bit in here, kind of move this arm away from that hand, like or away from that waist, because if you tangent on top of it, it doesn't read as well. So you can kind of get if she's on a strange planet, I'd kind of get like maybe a little bit more like cautious, like looking around sort of pose.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
Something like that. Because right now it's like she's like waiting at a bus stop almost. That's like the kind of pose I'm getting from this. Also, the waist right here moves forward a little bit too fast. Just probably delete a key on like in this area right here before, so that waist starts to go forward with that step. At the same time that step takes place, the waist goes forward as well. You know, so
Okay.
try to get something like that in there. And I could talk about moving holds as well. Basically, at this point, your waist control hits a wall, and that is just like completely stagnant. But like in reality, we're like constantly subtly moving. You know, we're constantly, like
so maybe have her shift weight
just a little bit of shift. Like it'll be really subtle. But yeah. Let's see. So look forward, look left. I find that this first wrist up is a little bit distracting almost. Like it kind of feels like kind of feels like it's not as, because you go back into it right here. So what sort of acting choice is that? Are they like phoning for like backup or something, or
yeah, so the first one is like one attempt, doesn't happen, and then stops and attempts it again.
Doesn't happen. Like is the wrist thing broken, or is it like just no signal coming back?
I'd say no signal.
No signal coming back. So I would do maybe the sort of acting choice of like phone home. And then either if the audio is coming from the wrist, then I would do like the sound, like ear to wrist sort of pose in there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If it's coming through a headset, I would do the hand to the headset, so like phone in, and then sort of like reach up and be like kind of pensive about it. And then once she finds out, I'm very down for her to get into this collapsed pose.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to end it. Like, just give up for a bit.
for a little bit, yeah. Just have a mild breakdown. But yeah, it's looking great so far. Looking great.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem. Alrighty. Alrighty. Anyone else have any play blasts for me to gander at? Any ganderers? Not yet. That's fine. Yeah, Keely, if that dragon rig is too insane, I really suggest going to a human, because it's like you're dealing with four arms, or 4 legs, 2 wings with so many controls.
I'm trying to psych myself into doing it because it's fun.
I mean, yeah, it is. Like that's why I don't want to completely just be like, no, you fool. But like at the same time, like we only got 2 weeks, only got 2 weeks left, so
We're gonna see what happens.
But yeah. Oh, also, if you want to see some badass dragon reference, I think the Harry Potter dragon is still one of the best like animated dragons I've seen to this date. In Harry Potter 4, like that, the way it moves and how they sell the weight on it is just really, really freaking good.
I have not thought about the Harry Potter dragons in years.
Right? Yeah. But yeah, just
Major
feel free to check
failing
them.
on my part.
Feel free to check them out for. Oh man, we're getting a bunch of animation here. Hell yeah! Don't think it's working. Riri, no. Let's see what we got. Beep up. Oh, okay, yeah. It's all right. So it's not, but you have a lot of the core concepts in there. And I like that you're animating it in place. I'll go over a walk cycle after we get back though. But also keep in mind that when your foot is underneath you, when you're walking, that's usually when you're at your highest point, right? So if I like clumsily get my chair out of the way. I wish I just had a treadmill here so I could like show walk cycles. But yeah, so as we take a step, we go, the waist goes down, and then as that foot is passing through, like as this back foot is like straightened out, I'm at my tallest point, right? Because the length of my leg is fully extended, and I'm right over that. And then we kind of go down in there again. So at this point, her waist would be pretty high up in there. Again, don't bring it super high, because then you're gonna risk a lot of hyperextension in there. And then on this, I like it staying. I like it kind of going up right here. This part's pretty good because you do push off a little bit with that back foot, so that high waist kind of carries over. And then but in here, okay, so this is still looking pretty decent. There's a part that gets weird though, I think. Yeah. So the waist has not bobbed up on this with this back foot, because at this point her waist should be higher up now. And then it looks like it gets there like too late. So yeah, and then also a thing to keep in mind, and I'm going to go over this when I do the walk cycle when we get back from break, is that this waist is moving at a constant speed, right? As I'm walking around a room, like I'm moving at a constant speed. I like right now I'm not, because I'm like rediverted. I'm like, I don't have much space in here, but like you're like, think about a treadmill, right? Like that's moving back against you at a constant speed. So your waist has to be moving forward at a constant speed. Since you're animating it in place, your main control is going to be moving forward at a constant speed. And to counteract that, your feet are going to be moving backward at a constant speed. So like as soon as a foot touches the ground, it starts tracking back. Boom. Starts going back in space. So just keep that in mind. That'll be pretty important for getting a nice looping walk in there. But I'm going to go more into that when we get back. But yeah, this is looking great though. I'm really liking this. Let's see what else.
The read file.
Oh yeah, you said you were having issues with something on it?
Yeah, I can't control the knee.
The knee. Oh, okay, let's see.
I can't do rotation.
Can't do rotation. Well, let's freaking. Did you email it to me, or is it Discord DMs or something, or what? Let's see. Oh yeah, here it is. Here it is. Then download. There we go. I'm gonna open scene. Let's go into my downloads folder. Date modified. Rig. Don't save. Very nice, very nice. Very dope indeed. It's kind of interesting. You ever seen a rig with like non-NURBs? Are these somehow NURBs secretly? NURBs curves. No, they aren't. Are they polygons? No, they're not. Weird. Are they NURBS holes or something? NURBS CVs? NURBS surface? There gotta be some. Yeah, NURBS surface. Ah, okay, there we go. NURBS rectangles, squares. There are NURBS surfaces apparently. So if you want to, in the future, render this out, you would turn those off. But let's turn those on because I want to mess around with this foot. So ankle control, perfect. That's how we move the foot around. And then in order to rotate that knee, you basically have to grab these IKs, and hopefully this works. Yeah. So this is how you could rotate those around.
Ah, okay. Never think about that.
Yeah. This is what they call a pole vector, POLE vector. It's the same for an IK arm. So it looks like you have an IK FK switch here. So if I put that onto 1, you can see that this arm is now IK as well. And then it has its own pole vector in there as well. And so if you move that around, it's going to angle that elbow. But I think for a walk cycle, it's probably best to just use FK for your shoulders and your arms and stuff. But yeah. So yeah, there you go. Let's look at the rest of it. But yeah, so just get a nice even timing on those feet moving and the pelvis, and you'll be good. Because right now it has this kind of end stutter step to it. What you can do is also, I like to start with my starting pose. So your starting pose is this right foot forward. And then you just want to make sure that that is your last frame. So like this would be your last frame of that walk cycle, would be whatever frame this is with that right foot forward again, because you'll see that if you go back to the start, they will loop nicely with each other. So this end part is, the stuff afterwards isn't that necessary. So you can just chop that and then have just 2 steps. But I'll go more into animating walk cycles because I know a lot of people probably are doing walk cycles. But yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing.
I have one more question.
Yeah, what's up?
How do I know? So on the IK/FK switch, how do I know is one IK or FK?
Yeah. I think, let's see, for this one, 1 is IK.
So I suppose to use
Make sure they're on 0 for the arms.
0 for arm. What about legs?
The legs, keep those on 1. Keep those on 1. Those will be good. Let's see the IK switch on there. Yeah, 1 will be great for the legs because they're making a lot of contact with the ground. It would be really like impossible to to get clean contacts without doing IK. Like if you're doing FK, it would be really annoying to get every frame to look nice on those whenever they're stepping on the ground.
So 0 for the arms and the 1 for legs.
Yep, and that's just on those little switch controls, which are floating off to the sides of the legs right here. Oop, right there. This one. But yeah, anything else that you're wondering about?
I think that's it.
Awesome. All right. Let me know if you got any other questions. All right, so now we got. Oh, hell yeah. Oh. Nice. I like it. I like it. Even using a little prop in the hand. Yeah, I like the door animation too. This is fun. This is really fun. I will say that. Well, so I'm guessing he's pretty drunk at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So look at his torso. Like 1, it's perfectly still. So that communicates non-drunk to me. That communicates someone that's like almost robotically precise. And also in the posing, we could always push this a little bit further. So like on this push forward, like you could break up the symmetry of his pose because he comes back down into like this. But on that push forward, if he's like really drunk, I would just do like a and then like kind of like off to the side, like Oh wait, let me angle the same way he is. So like off to the side, has his bottle in his hand still, like he's just messed up, you know. So try to get a pose that's more like that rather than like what we have right now, which is this. So try to get something that's a little bit less twinning. You don't want both sides of the character to be the same. And let's get him, we'll get him a little sloppy looking, you know, a little bit sloppy in there.
Okay, I did have him hunched over, but I guess it doesn't read right here.
I would hunch him more screen right. So instead of hunching forward like this, just hunch him to the side, you know.
If I hunch him over, do I have to like redo all that animation, or can I just tilt him and all the other animation will follow?
Yeah, you can just tilt them. Well, the keys after it won't, but like let me show you the graph editor, because that's like where you'll. Let me get some animation on this girl, and we're gonna make her sloppy drunk in a little bit. So let's see, boom, bang, right there. So you basically have a lot of keys, probably, right? Of of animation. Let's rotate this arm down. But like halfway through, or like on this frame, they need to look a little bit sloppier. So they do the push forward, and then we need to change that frame and the preceding frames. So I would select all the spine controls. Boom, boom, bang. So I have all the spines selected right here. And then I'm going to go to Windows, Animation Editor, Graph Editor. And then right now, let's actually get like a hunch forward pose in there. Nice. I'm just going to copy and paste that. Let's get her even more hunched. Copy, paste, 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 and paste. So we have that, but we basically need all of these keys to be a little bit different, right? So we'd go into the rotation, and I'm just going to select all of my rotation channels, and I'm just holding Control, and I'm just left clicking them to select them all. And let's just play around. So it looks like red right here is dealing with the forward and backwards. So let's go to a key in here and C. We're just going to experiment. So I'm just drag selecting over that red, and I'm just going to press W and then middle click drag, and you'll see that I'm changing all of those. I'm changing all the spines right now on this frame. So that's the forward lunge. So we don't want forward to be more, right? We're probably looking for rotate Y or rotate Z then. My money is on Z, rotate Z. So on the Z channel, I just selected the first rotate Z, Control left click the other ones, and then I'm going to left click drag over this. And then if I press W and then middle click drag, yep, looks like they're going off center. See how it's going left and right? So what we want to do is instead select all the other rotate Z's, press W, then shift middle click drag down. Shift middle click drag down, right? So now they're in a pose that's like this, more hunched over. Got their bottle in hand. But yeah, so that's how we'd change multiple keys. If you don't like that, then you could simply well, I'm noticing that he has a lot of, if he has a bunch of keys in here, like they seem to be mostly stagnant on that torso. Like after this point, that if you look at that torso, it doesn't move anymore, right? Like his neck moves there and his head moves there, but his torso doesn't move there. So what you could do is just delete the preceding keys on that, since they have the same information anyways. You don't have to deal with them anymore, you know? You can just shift left click drag on the timeline and right click and delete, and then they're out of there. You don't need to worry about those. Then you can just change this one to whatever it is. And then, yeah, then when the character looks to the left or right, let's get a key. So if they look to the right, boom, I would try to get the neck to go first, and then for the body to follow. So boom, and then if that as that neck moves over to look to the right, you'd kind of sway the body that way too, a little bit in there, because they're kind of just super drunk, you know. So probably not the timing that I would want, but like just to sell that little bit of off balance in there, and I would get this this main control sort of compensating for that as well. So.
All right, got it.
But yeah, there you go. But yeah, good
All right,
stuff,
thank
man.
you.
Good stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see where this turns out. Then Gumroad, I don't know if you're able to view this link, but this is the file I was attempting to use, but I was having the RAR issues with it. Kendall's trying to entrap me by sending me some bugged Gumroad link. No, I'm kidding. You've already viewed this product a few times. Once you enter the email you used, you'll be able to access it again. What? Want this? Sure, wrong email. Oh, I can't open that up for some reason. That's weird. It's not letting me. It ain't letting me. You know, my computer opens up. I can send it properly. X-Files. But yeah. All right, so we're gonna go on break, and then we're gonna come back. Let's come back at let's do a nice balmy 640. Let's do a 640. So just a little bit of a snack. And yeah, I'll get back into animating a walk cycle. It'll be cool. It'll be very cool. All right, see you guys then. See you guys then. Resume recording. So let me just set up a little bit of a surface to walk through here. Oops. There we go. Scale this. Wow. Ha. All right. Beep up. Why did I close my graph editor? That was foolish of me. There we go. You're back. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have treated you that way. All right. So when I'm doing a walk cycle, first of all, this character might be a little bit strange. Ooh, let me make my environment on a layer so I'm not messing around with that. So now that environment's on a layer, I'm going to make that a reference layer by pressing R. And we're good to go. We're good to go. And there's already a few keys on this rig from when I was doing that first example, so I'm just going to delete those and start from the beginning. And I'm going to do, I don't know what the 100th is. You have to find out, Raph. You have to find out. It's going to be a journey. So here we go. Let's get our walking pose. You can always check out the Animator's Survival Kit. It's a classic book. Classic book. Let's do walk cycle. And it just breaks down the basics for you again if it's been a while, you know. Yeah, you have the spread, and then you have the down and then the up. This is Tammy, this is what I was talking about, like how your waist is a little bit offset from where it should be on those. So yeah, look at this sort of diagram and kind of zero in on like which of your poses are a little bit off. And then he has a version with the arms in it too. So it's gonna be, yeah, it's just really useful stuff in there. Very useful. So yeah, it's just a good thing to definitely remember this from Sarah's class. Yep. It is. It's a classic. It's a classic. But yeah, so our goal is basically to get all of these poses in and looping back with that front leg being that right leg for Google free. Cough. Yeah. If you guys can get stuff for free, I support it. Do it. Unless it's like things from regular stores. I don't want you guys just going to jail for robbery. But yeah, so let's get a contact pose. It's gonna be very cool, very exciting. Boom. All of this. I'm going to also key all of my controls. So I'm just dragging over everything. If you're selecting like joints and stuff, make sure before you drag over everything that you turn off joints. You can either, if there's a display layer for it, you can just viz them off, like how I'm doing the environment on there right now. Or you can go to show and then just turn it off in here, like the joints, because you should not key joints. Please do not key joints. I will talk about not keying joints until I die and I'm in the grave. And even then, I'll probably haunt someone and come back and be like, you're keying some joints, aren't you? But yeah, so there we go. We have one pose right there. And immediately we can just go in and like further on the timeline, just make another key on like everything, on everything. You can just do it like that. Oh, actually, first I'm gonna go back to that first frame and also just fix up my arms a little bit. I'm not gonna actually get anything nice or spectacular going in here, but yes, there we go. Copy, and I'm gonna paste that key onto that other frame. There we go. Because it doesn't really matter because I'm gonna be replacing that frame anyways. And then this one goes back. Remember, all right, if anyone keys the left foot forward, but then also the left arm forward, you get 20 lashes for an animation sin. You don't take a step forward and reach that same arm out at the same time. You don't do that. You don't do that. I mean, you can. I'm physically doing it right now, but I look like a freak. So we don't want to look like freaks all the time, you know? So let's counterbalance that. Instead, right foot forward, left arm forward. Boom. So then you got that balance going on. Hua, 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 hua. So please don't animate like that. I saw there's like this Batman fan film, and there's like one walk cycle, like it looked gorgeous, and then there's like one walk cycle where they did that, and I was like, how could you do this? I was very upset. The animator and me was screaming. And so here we go. All right, so then we have our first pose. And like I said, you could just right click, copy, go further down, and then paste that in there to get that same pose in there. And basically, we're going to use this pose as the other contact pose. So I'm just going to like reverse it basically. And this is on, he's recommending frame 13. That's fine. We're on frame 13. All right, cool. Hype. All right, so now I'm basically going to bring this foot back to where this other foot is. Yup. And then I'll bring this foot forward to where the other foot was in this first one. Boom. And whenever I'm swapping between these on the timeline, I'm just using my hotkeys for this. I really recommend setting that up for animation because like you're going to be going between these a lot. You're going to want a fast way to do that. I'm going to press S, boom, bang, there we go. And what does that look like? Does that look pretty even? Pretty even, yeah, looking pretty even there. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, and then next step on this, we're going to rotate the arm back. Yeah. Cool. And then rotate this arm forward. When you also are doing a walk cycle, please do the same sound effect. If you get animation notes, like 50% of the time, it's just gonna be noises. They're gonna be like, right now your character's falling like boo, but they have to go boo, like it's just to like break up the timing. It's because we're basically just speaking in timing and rhythm at that point and trying to communicate that in the scene. But like, yeah, you'll definitely get a lot of notes that are just noises. And it's just like, what? I guess this works for me. But yeah, so now we have our first pose. everyone's just grunting to each other in those meetings. Yeah, we're like one step away from just being apes, just jumping on the tables and making noise. But yeah, so now you'll see that I have those two keys. Look at that. So it's looking, you know, it's looking like something. And then to keep the speed constant, what I like to do is just look at the space. Sometimes I'll even count the frames between these, you know, so it's like 1 to 13. So then like I know between this is 12 frames, you know, so then I'll go 12 frames further, you know, so I'd go to 25. And then that'll be my last pose, right? So I'll just set a key there so I can remember. Then I'm going to right click that first key, copy, and then go to that last frame, right click, paste, bop, right there. And then let's shrink our timeline now because we're only concerned with these 25 frames. Beep, bop, beep, bop, beep, bop. I am robot. Hello. So what's feeling robotic about this is a lot of things, you know, like the feet are just sliding across the floor. That's going to be a problem. And the pelvis isn't going up and down. It's just very robotic, you know. It's to be expected, you know. And then we have to work on our sort of in between poses, you know. And if we look at our handy little guide right here, you can see that we need a down, we need a passing, and then we need the up into that contact. So we basically are missing 3 poses in here. Let's go with the passing pose first. So let's address that at the halfway point. So 7, very nice. So this is our passing. So the difference between this and this is that we need our waist going up, because we have to have this leg pretty straight. Let's try to get that as straight as we can without hyperextending. And then we also need to lift up that other foot, the one that's going forward. So let's get a key in here on the pelvis. Yeah, right there. Something like this will be pretty good. And then I believe it's the right foot going. Oh no, it's the left foot. Haha, I lied. Okay, so let's just bring this one, and then we're just gonna bring it up in the air because they be walking forward. There we go. There we go. Delicious. Delicious. All right, so there we go. And already it's starting to look better, you know. Of course, there's a lot of refining that we could do. But yeah, so then let's go 6 ahead of this 13 because we went from frame 1 to 7. I want to keep this even timing. If you mess this up by like 1 frame, it's like you're gonna feel that inconsistency. And you can add a lot of naturalism to the scene by doing that, but like for this sort of base pass, I want to get everything nice and even. So then let's move to +6 on top of this one right here. That's going to bring us to 19, and we're going to do the same sort of treatment. So waist up, we could even copy that same key from the waist before, but you know, let's do it ourselves. Let's do it ourselves, y'all. And then we could take this one and rotate it back like it's just like leaving the ground, and then it's kind of doing that action as it leaves the ground and goes boom, there you go. And so already it's pretty even, and it's, you know, it's coming alive like with each different pass. But for walk cycles, I really recommend doing this like first because it's gonna keep the speed of that walk cycle pretty even for you. It's gonna be nice to loop that way. There are a few different problems though, right? So if we wanted this to loop, first problem is that we didn't do all like the poses, you know, like we didn't do like the down, we didn't do the up. So we were missing out on those. But you know, it's whatever. We can add those back later. But I want to talk about syncing up these feet with the ground. So if I go in and select all my controls, yeah, like that, cool. Very, very cool. And then I expand my timeline because I'm going to need more of this walk. And remember, this step is going to be after you've already got a nice developed walk. And make sure that your first and last frames are the same. So this is my last frame at 25. This is my first frame at 1. Make sure they're the same. And what we're going to do is just shift left click drag. So like this is going on the premise that you've already polished up the walk cycle. It looks pretty good. You select all those, right click, copy. You just go to that last frame right here. Boom, 25. Right click, paste. Boop. And then now you can see, yeah. They're strutting. They're strutting, and I can go to that last frame again and then just paste again, you know? It's that same walk cycle that's stored. Boom, I'm gonna paste again. Hell yeah. So we're walking here. I'm also gonna give us some reference points. I just created a cube. I'm just going to move it over here. I'm just gonna duplicate that across just for some reference points. Otherwise you'll see me walking on like a just a blank slate, which is fine, but visually I want a little bit more in there. What the? Whoa. All right. So my manipulator is just out of whack right there. Pretty strange. There we go. So let's get more of these in here. Nice. Just for some reference points. Like we're not going to actually think of this as part of the environment, but yeah. So here we go. And then how did you size up the manipulator with hotkeys? Oh, that's the plus sign. So just a little plus, or the plus button. I guess you'd technically be pressing equals, you know. But yeah, and then minus to shrink it down. Yeah, someone else ran into that problem earlier. I think it was Tammy actually. Yeah. Sorry to hotkey shame you, Tammy. I didn't mean to. But yeah, and then now to get this moving forward in space, this is when we use our master control. The master control underneath the character. Most every rig is going to have a master control. I recommend that you don't rely on it for pretty much anything besides this, like moving a looping walk cycle forward, or if you're like on a boat or a car, then you'd have this main control moving along with it. Because I see a lot of times students like they're like a character like didn't move far enough forward when they were doing like a step in a scene, so then they move the master control, but then as soon as you do that, all your foot plants get messed up, because now since that master control is sliding a little bit, all your foot plants are sliding, and then if your foot plants are sliding, it's just you lose the illusion of life. You like really you lose it. So yeah, so make sure your contacts are clean, and I'm going to go over that as well pretty much right now, because now we're going to move forward on this master control, right? And we're going along the z-axis right here. So you can tell just by looking at the manipulator. If I click on this middle box, you can see blue, forward, z. So it's got to be this curve. And what we need to do is just select it. I'm going to delete out all these other keys, because this curve needs to be a straight line. Remember how I was saying that our waist is moving at a constant speed? So this needs to be a straight line. And you'll notice that default tangents aren't going to work for this, because they have that ease in, ease out. So if I played it right now, they're like not moving at all, and then they start moving. Oh, wait, well, let me exaggerate this curve a lot. So here we go. Yeah. So they start slow, and then they're like, oh, now I'm going, and then they move. So let's focus on that. I'm going to scale this up even more, because this character needs to be walking pretty far. There we go, something like that. Wow. Oh dear God, no, she's taking off. Oh man. Well, I guess what we can do is we can just go to that last key, since that's the only other key on Z. and then just drag her back visually so we don't get some crazy values again. There we go. So now let's see what we got going on. So see how the ease in starts and then the ease out starts, and that's just, you're not going to get a clean looping walk cycle with nice foot plants by doing that. Steam sale, she's booking it home. Hell yeah.
It is on, by the way, the Steam sale. Goodbye, all of our money.
Really?
Which one?
They used to have like insane deals, but I think I haven't seen any recently. Like they used to have like flash sales, and it was like insane deals, and I would like lose my mind. But
yeah, my friend's about to spend $162 on games right now.
Oh,
He's going nuts on like Discord. I'm like, oh, yeah.
The cart is just bursting.
Bursting. Yeah, this is what I imagine him doing. He's like, oh my god, there's a Steam sale. So he went home.
Hell yeah. So we have this walk cycle looping now, and we've gone in order to get that that ease in, ease out of the animation, we just select those keys and go to linear tangents. Boom. There we go. So now it's moving at that constant speed that I was talking about, right? Moving at that constant speed. But you'll notice that like the feet are still sliding back in, like they're still sliding in space, right? They kind of stop like right here, but then they keep sliding out. Like, why is that? What's going on there? What's going on there? It's because the feet also need to be moving back at a constant pace. So if you go to translate Z on the feet, you'll notice those keys are smoothly going, smoothly moving between each other. Like they're interpolating smoothly with the auto tangents. What we need are linear tangents on some of these. So particularly on like the back. So as they're moving back, like they need to be moving at that same speed that this main control is going at, but just in the opposite direction, because they're kind of pushing against the ground and moving like that. So this down tangent needs to be linear. Boom, bang, linear, pow. There we go. I'm gonna do the same with this one and this one and this one. Boom, all linear. And I suppose you could break your tangents on the way out as well, because see how they're kind of like rocketing forward now. You could break them on the way out for sure, but that'd just be more keying in the future. So let's leave that for now. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to go into translate Z, and then all my tangents that are going down, like when they're going across the ground, I need these to be linear. Boop, bop, beep, bop, boop. Bang. There we go. And you'll notice that our character is still sliding. They're still sliding across the ground. Does anyone know why they're sliding across the ground still, even though we've straightened out all the tangents? Anyone have a guess?
I mean, if it's a constant speed, it means it doesn't stop, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So then, technically, when we're walking, the foot that's on the ground should stay in that position. It shouldn't keep going forward.
Yep.
You could technically copy that key and then paste it, right? Just that specific key for the feet, and paste it towards the, I guess, the end of the next walk step.
Isn't because you mentioned us moving the master, right? So it's causing your feet placements to slide as well.
Yeah, yeah. So
like a car.
So Sarah's right. Basically, it's a mismatch between this curve, this like downward curve right here, is going too fast or too slow in comparison to the main to the master control. So if we tilt this curve more, let's see. Right now, our feet are sliding forward, so we need to slow down this curve a little bit. So I'm going to select that last key on that master control. I'm going to select that last Z, translate Z. I'm going to press W to go into move, and then I'm just going to shift, middle click, drag down a little bit. And we can just visually see, like, is this looking closer? And it is. It is. It's looking closer. It's still pulling them. It's like when the foot plants down, it's still getting pulled forward, so I need to move this down even more so it's not pushing it as much. Let's see.
Like there has to be a better way, right? It's not just like.
No, I mean this is what I do, but you
Okay.
you could technically just, I suppose you could copy this curve specifically and paste it in here. Let's try this. Boom, bang.
Because it's just like you fighting against the curves that you preset, and then you're like, well, hopefully this matches. Does it match?
Yeah, right.
Maybe.
So, so like I just basically, okay. So I clicked on this ankle, and then I selected these two right here.
Yeah.
And then I just did control copy in this viewport, not in the 3D viewport, but in the graph editor, and then put it on the waist or on this main this master control, and then I'm going to you basically have to, you don't have to do it this way, but this will work, I think. You could type into this box times equals -1 on both of those controls that you pasted, or both of those keys you pasted onto that master control, and then let's make those linear. And then let's do tangents, or let's see, curves, post-infinity, cycle with offset, curves, pre-infinity, cycle with offset, view, make sure infinity is working. Let's see if this works. Yeah. So yeah, mathematically it works, but also like it's just kind of, I can only do that because like I know how the graph editor works, but I don't want to be like, this is how you do it, and then like have those like 5 additional steps.
I just meant like if you're in a pipeline, right? And like you have to have like the background characters walking and stuff. You're like, well, let's just
Well,
do that.
The way that I do them is with an animation layer, but I don't want to talk about animation layers. It's basically an additive sort of layer that you put on the animation that would have a constant curve, and then you can like mute it and turn it on and off, and then you can work with it that way. So then you'd have all of your IK controls on that. On the animation layer that have that constant curve, and then you just kind of additively minus that out in here.
Writing down Mike's secrets right now for later.
But yeah, I don't want to go into animation layers because it just makes the graph editor even more confusing, because then you'll have an extra layer in the graph editor that's like more curves, and I'm like, we're trying to keep it simple, you know, for y'all. But yeah, this way works too. But I would, for starting out, I would say just like try to eyeball it, you know. But you can use that copy and paste technique for sure. But yeah, I'm trying to give like the most basic boy version of it, yeah. So no one's getting too confused. But then let's work on polishing this up, you know. So let's look at the first 25 frames, because that's where like that base walk cycle is. And we're just going to be looking at every single control except for the master. And because I want to get like a nice animation now, right? So a few things on this, I would say let's get like I animated my character walking away from their master control. Is there any way to reunite them? Yeah, but you have to like track them and then track all the IK controls as well if you're an IK. But if you're walking, like if you're doing like any interacting with a scene, like say I was like, oh, I'm gonna go over and play my piano. Nice. Okay, cool. And then time for guitar. Like, so I'm just going through a scene. I'm not moving that master control at all. I would just be doing my IK, like feet. Like I would be moving my IK feet controls over here, my IK hands, and then my waist, and then get into the pose, boom, bang.
I want to say that the like IK controls are also part of the master control. There's a circle, and it has the model's feet have left the circle, but their controls are still in the circle.
So the actual, like so say my feet were my hands. So you're saying the control, like the circle control, is around the hands, but then the hand is not where that circle is anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, that could be for like FK. Like this circle could be like an FK rotator, and then since you're on like an IK setting,
there's a circle with 2 boxes, and the boxes have circles in them, and those were for the feet, which I have moved away from the feet controls on the ground.
I would say select those controls and then see if they're saying like IK wrist or IK ankle or foot or something. They are?
Yeah, they still control the legs, but from like farther away.
I'm not exactly sure if I'm like understanding what's going on precisely,
All right,
but like
finish the like walk cycle.
Yeah, I'll yeah. All right. So I think that we're missing a lot of things on this walk cycle, you know, like let's get a little bit of twist on this. Like we don't just walk forward with our entire core just going straight, you know, like this. Like that's not how people walk. So you gotta loosen up that spine a little bit, y'all. Like loosen up that spine. So like let's get a little bit of twist in the direction that our arms are going, because we're kind of counterbalancing as we're walking, right? So let's just rotate this kind of towards the front where we're going right here, right? And then let's go to this first key, rotate it back like this, just a little bit. So now you just get a little bit of rotation in there. That's all. And then you can click that first one, right click, copy, and then go to that last frame, right click, paste to make sure that that pose is correct. And then we can also counter animate that neck so they're always facing forward. Boom, right there, perfect. Right click, copy, right click, paste, boom. So now on the first frame and the last frame, they're facing forward. Let's get to this middle frame as well. I want to make sure that they're always looking forward. Sometimes you can have a different space that your head is orienting towards. It looks like this character does. See orient space. You can make it world. And then if you do that, wherever you rotate, they should still be looking at the same direction. Yeah, you see that? So you can be working with that sort of setting if your rig supports it, but I'll just show you how to do this with any rig. It's just a little bit more tedious. You're just doing a lot of counter animation, you know. So there we go. There we go. Already looking a little bit better. And let's see. Let's get some more just torso fidelity. Like I want to make sure that this like reads like clean animation, you know, we want to get that naturalistic feel. So I'm going to kind of go in, and as this character is stepping and they're letting go of the ground with this foot, they kind of need to be a little bit slightly moved over to this foot. You see, a little bit slightly, just a little bit. So boom, and then a little bit slightly over this one, because this is the only point that's supporting them. They need to look like they're balanced over it, you know. So let's move a little bit over there. So I think that's a little bit too much, so I'm going to dial it back a little bit.
Sorry to interrupt, but just a quick note, guys. I know for people who had intro to animation, we didn't animate someone walking forward. So there's a reason why he's doing the weight shift of the hips and stuff. And you can actually find that in the Richard Williams book as well, if you need help with figuring out the walk cycle moving forward.
Yeah.
So.
Hell yeah. Yeah. It's, well, basically when I'm animating, I'm also just kind of thinking of like physics a lot, like where the forces are on the body, to kind of figure out like where they need to sort of counterbalance and do all that sort of stuff, you know. But yeah, and then I'm also going to kind of counter animate. So when we're going out like this, I'm going to kind of try to just ever so slightly ever so slightly, give a little bit of boom, just a slight little off center there, just a little bit, just a touch. It's like Gordon Ramsay adding olive oil to something, just a touch, just a touch. That's probably too much right there. And then you also want to, if you're doing that, you want to center that neck again. Again, I'd recommend exploring that world space control, but if your rig doesn't have that, then no need. You can always just counter animate it. Boom. And that's kind of looking a little bit weird right there with this. So this arm is kind of rotating outward strangely. I'm going to keep this nice and low. I'm also feeling, where's the scapula control on this? Right here? Is this it? There we go. Yeah. So this I'm feeling is a little bit too high. A little bit. I kind of want something more relaxed, like down here. So let's try that. Rotate Z. Yeah, it looks like my rotate Z channel needs to be a bit lower. So we can move all of these down. In fact, since we didn't do any like animation on this control yet, we could also just straight up delete it. You know, we don't need any of those keys if like we haven't really messed with them. So we could go in and click that, boom, and here we go. I'm just kind of getting into like a more relaxed pose, right? And let's paste that there. And let's move. Let's work on the inside keys of this arm control. As that arm's swinging back, I kind of want to have a little bit of like a slight amount of overlap on that. So we get a little bit, like a little bit of drag in there, like just a little bit. Nothing too crazy. And then on the way back, right there. On the way back, I want to hit like a more straight sort of pose for when that arm is swinging, like that action. I want to get a straighter pose in there. Might have to delay it a few frames to make it read nicely. But let's see. Boom, bang. All right, yeah, so that's looking good. You can add a little bit of overlap on this wrist as well. Just a little bit. I would also get these fingers into a more just natural pose, right? Like if I select them, I could just go, since we haven't done any finger work yet, I could just shift, left click over all those keys and then work on this first pose. I could even go into the graph editor and just delete all the other keys as well. But yeah, you rarely like walk like this, you know, that's like how fucking Terminator runs in Terminator 2, you know, with those like that like straight death stare. So we want to get something nice, like just get something like that in there, you know, a little bit curved on each finger, and then your pinky is like lighter weight, so it curves more easily. That's why a lot of the natural poses are like this, you know. So let's get that in there. Right there. Right there. Delicious finger curves. Here we go. And there we go. Get this thumb curving back as well. Let's get this thumb base there too. Might be a little bit too much, but who knows? There we go. I'm going to say we could get this a little bit beep. But yeah, so you'll quickly realize that posing your character takes a lot of time. You know, so I like to break it down into those first. Like I just tackled the feet and the pelvis mostly first, and the arms, and then everything else just kind of follows. You know, just kind of follows it. So yeah. feel free to work the same way. I'm going to deselect this wrist control. And then I'm going to click all these keys and delete them. I don't want any more of these keys. I don't want any of them in there. Well, I could probably bring that a little bit more curled based on taste. Just kind of looks. I'm not going to mess with the hand anymore. I swear, guys. I swear. Oops. I'm just going to move it. I'm just shifting that key over by just copying and pasting it, and then yeah, delete that. But yeah, and then it's kind of swooping a little bit too fast backwards, so it's clearly my rotation Y in there. I can just not exaggerate this curve as much. There we go, and I think my shoulder's also doing a little bit of something in there. So let's look at the rotation on that. Wow. This. Let's get that on that frame 7. Let's get it like a little bit closer back. There we go. Okay. And then our feet are looking all right, but when they're leaving the ground, it's not convincing. Like that, they're kind of like leaving like straight off. Like instead, I want to get that like, boom, foot down and then kind of lift off with that toe action in there. So I'm not gonna lie, this part of foot contacts are really annoying. They're really annoying to do because a lot of times you end up just having to key every single frame on them. Let's see what this foot rig has in store for us. It has some ball roll channels, which can be useful for this. Like see how this channel in the channel box is like a little bit of an extra control in there. We can just kind of left click on the channel name itself and then middle click drag in the viewport. So you can do something like that. But if you want to do it the old school way too, you can just like if your rig doesn't have that sort of capability, you can just rotate it further back and then compensate with that foot. And then boom, see it's clipping through the ground there. So I want to set a key, boom. Wait, let's see, make sure that we're looking the same on this. Okay, all right, cool. So I want to line this up visually, you know, with that first one because it's rotating. We're basically rotating this control around a different pivot, you know. So just make sure it lines up. This is when it's really useful to get that the hotkey for snapping between frames. That way I don't have to like look at my timeline and then drag it, then look back up and then look down at the timeline, drag it. You know, I can just visually be in the frame still and be keying like where it needs to be. And then let's do this. I'm going to rotate out the toe a little bit at this point. Up right there. And then let's see. Oh, looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. So there you go. There you go. Wow. And then if you want, now, oftentimes, like when people are animating, they get like they'll get a pose that's like heel up, like this, to like to do a step. Doesn't make much sense for this character though, because I feel like if you're gonna plant a foot in heels, I don't have much experience with heels, unfortunately, so I can't really say the truth here. But I feel like if you're gonna try to plant a foot like this, you're gonna get like a little bit of wobbliness in there. So I would say you probably keep it. I also don't have much experience with this. But yeah, I would probably keep it similar to how we have it right now. you could exaggerate the arc and kind of maybe bring it the foot out a little bit higher in there, you know, to get more of that down contact in there. But yeah. And then if we wanted to add a little bit more follow through on this arm, or not follow through, but overlap, like I feel like it feels like it's getting a little bit stuck in there. I would say we could just select the elbow a little bit, and then like slightly after that frame, right? Like slightly after that most back frame, we can kind of extend it out a little bit, and extend it out again there. So now we have something it's not as like jerk back now. It doesn't just bounce back out of that back pose. It kind of hangs there for a little bit more because we added a little bit of overlap in there. But yeah, so that's basically like one half of the body is now polished, right? It's now polished. I would add maybe a little bit more naturalism in the torso, because I'm getting a little bit of weird rotations in here. This could be due to like having a few too many curves. So if I just wanted to maintain those, these ones, I could simplify it down and just delete some information that's kind of making it feel a little bit strange. Now I'm trying to stabilize this though. So let's get those back in there. And let's look at this from the front. We could even go into orthographic view. That's just straight on the front. And then visually sort of work with this. Go. Boom, bang. All right. So that's pretty much it. If you're setting keys on like some of these controls as well, and they're not feeling as crisp, like if they're feeling a little bit like stuttery, always check your tangents as well. And like if you're on an FK control that's supposed to be flowing and nice feeling, you're gonna want to use splines. You know, you're gonna want to use some splines in there. Like mine weren't splines, but they're still looking pretty good. So, but now with splines, they might look even slightly better. But like, yeah, so like same with waists. You might want to use splines in here. Like notice how, what is this? Translate X. So see my translate X curve in here? It's kind of flattening out in here because that tangent. Mike, you don't like that. Let's get some freaking splines in here. So splines are this one right here. Oop. You can also use auto. I like auto tangents a lot. Auto tangents work really good for IK controls. Like if you're doing someone walking around a scene, auto tangents for your IK controls are going to work really nicely. So give that a go. Give that a go. But yeah, so basically half of the walk cycle right there, you know. And then to propagate those keys over the rest of it, right? Like we did all of the body. We basically want to select everything except for that master control, and then to get like because we did all like this cool like foot contact polish and stuff, and it's like following it. We don't want to mess with the master control at this point. We just want to shift, left click, drag while selecting everything on the character. Right click, copy. And then we can just straight up delete the rest of these keys because these are just the body, right? So now they're going to hit that pose and then keep walking continuously, you know, but they're just sliding. Hell yeah. So what we need to do is right click and then just paste again. So it's just that same walk cycle. You could do that same infinity cycle thing I did, but I don't want to go too far into that if you guys are I don't want to get even more details in there, you know. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, looks like my looks like my foot got non-linear tangents again somewhere. So let's go to our translate. Ah, yeah, looks like this bottom one is non-linear. Oh yeah, there we go. So we just need to select those ones, make them linear tangents. There you go. Then they'll have some very clean contacts. Some very clean contacts in there. Beep, beep, beep. Yep. All right. Alrighty, so that's a walk cycle. That's a walk cycle for y'all. So basically, you just start with that first the first pose. Let's get over to the camera. Boom. Left arm forward, right leg forward, and then you do the opposite a few frames later. Then you get that that middle frame of the foot lifting up as it's transitioning, and then get a little bit of waist in there. At that point, that's when I looped. That's when I looped it and did what is it? All the stuff with that main control, the master control moving at a constant rate, linear tangents on those keys, and then linear tangents on every single foot going back, right? To make sure that they're traveling at a constant rate. So yeah, it's a process for sure. It's a process, but yeah. But that's how it's done. That's how it's done. You guys can do the method that I went over with Sarah, but it's a little bit complicated. So if you want to just eyeball it, then that's also fine. But yeah, you can always look back at the video and see the steps that we did for this. Alrighty. So that's it for walk cycle. That's it for walk cycle. Is there anything that you guys want to see me demo as far as like either animating or rendering out a scene again? Either one of those, I'm down to talk about more. Alrighty, well, I'm here for y'all if any more questions come up recording. So like what you do to fix that crazy rotation is you go to curves and then Euler filter. This one, EULER filter.
Oh.
And then if that doesn't work, you just Control Z it and then do change rotation interpolation to quaternion slurp instead of independent Euler. Independent Euler is like the default setting, but yeah.
So if I just have that turned on, wait.
You could do quaternion slurp just by default, but independent Euler is going to take care of most of your problems.
Okay, because you're talking about like the in-betweeners, right?
Yeah, like it's like the in-between frames might like get really funky sometimes. So
yeah, there was like a couple that did, and I just had to manually change them instead.
Yeah, did you just muscle them into position? Okay, yeah, that can work too. But yeah, if you do quaternion slurp, that should fix it. Or Euler filter can fix it as well sometimes.
Okay.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's basically just due to, it's not really slurp, right? It is slurp. That means smoothly interpolating, or like and then quaternion is basically when you're rotating something, we only deal with rotate X, Y, and Z, but mathematically it can't describe all rotations. So back in like the 1800s, there were like two nerds battling it out. There was like Euler and then whoever made quaternions. And quaternions are basically, you have rotate X, Y, Z, and then W. You have a fourth channel in there. So it's like the math behind it is described with four values rather than 3. And did not here to expect something from the 1800s. I mean, they were doing some math. Yeah, Euler was like full of himself, and he's like, hell yeah, this is the best way to do it. And then like we found out that it's like not the best way to describe things because you'll get into gimbal lock. Oh yeah, you should. He probably knows. He probably knows something about it. But yeah, I think like I don't know when they flipped back to it. Like game engines all use quaternions to describe rotations. Like in the viewport, you'll use 3, right? You use X, Y, and Z just because it makes sense. But you'll use a real life math term. Yeah, hell yeah, it is. It 100% is. But yeah, and then but if you're coding stuff, like you'll be using quaternions, so just to describe it, better. Said we use that in Unity. Hell yeah, right? Yep, quaternions. Yep, he knows the pain. He had to convert between that and 3D space a lot. Yeah, every single time you do, because like if you try to set like a rotation in Unity, it has to be in quaternions. But they have a lot of nice functions in there that let you.
Something bad happen if I just combine both of them.
Combine what?
Use both.
You pretty much. Yeah, I mean you could, but generally like as soon as you change to quaternion slurp, it's gonna like affect it. It's the slurp part that I'm most yeah. There's lerp and slurp.
Oh, don't worry, I did save as just in case.
Dude, hell yeah. Okay, you've learned well. But yeah, you could just switch over to quaternion slurp, or you could try some of these other ones like cubic or tangent dependent. And they'll work with varying success, but yeah, like Slurpee, yerp, yerp, hell yeah. Derp, how are we leaving out derp? Yeah, damn. Good call out, Sarah. Can't forget derp. But yeah, it's a little. Thank you for coming to my TED talk on dumb rotations in Maya. I want to go home. Hey, we still have ass bin files. Yeah, that's the true balance. You have like on one side of the spectrum ass bin files, and on the other side of the spectrum you have quaternion slurp. So
I like that Maya provides such a variety. We have dudes from the 1800s yelling at each other, and then we have ass files. What a time. Good times.
Man.
Yeah.
What a time to be alive. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Next album, hell yeah. So anyone have any other scenes want me to check out, or if you guys want me to go over rendering again, I'm very, very down to.
I have a question about camera angles.
Yeah.
So do we create multiple cameras and then just play blast the videos and mash them together, or is there a way to like cut from camera to camera?
You could wait. So I need to ask you first: is it for play blasting only, or for a final render?
I guess it's for like the final render. Like I'm planning to switch between like cameras, like cutting scenes. Yeah.
So for play blasting purposes, though, like so if you in the final render, you will have 2 cameras in your scene. One will be that first shot, and then the other one will be that second shot, and then you'll render out those frames for that in the where you dictate the frame range. Let's open that panel up for you again just so you can see. Yeah, in like as soon as I change this to multiple frames, you'll see that frame range. You'll be like, okay, so frame 1 to frame 40 is my establishing shot where he pushes open those doors, and then frame 41, because that's like the next frame after 40, 41 and to 100 is like the rest of the scene. So then you'll have 2 cameras in there, and then you'll just do, so frame 1 to 40 was my establishing shot, and that'll be on my establishing camera. So you'll change renderable camera to your establishing camera. Then for the rest of it, it'd be frame 41 to 200, 220, sure. And then you'll do your rest of the camera shot. For play blasting, that's kind of annoying, right? Because you just want to visually see what that's like. So how I would handle that is by just using one camera for the play blast. And then I would do it like this. I would create a camera. Let's do camera and aim, sure. Let's move this. And so our first shot would be let's go to our different panels and then camera 1. Got to move chat over here. So our first shot is this, kind of weird shot, to be honest. There we go. Let's get like wider. And so I'm just having my keys here as usual. And then as they're walking along, this is happening. Very cool, very cool. And then, so this is like the first part of the shot. And then for this is only for play blasting, right? Because we want to play blast out of one camera. Let's move the graph editor over so you can see. We'll set a key and then another key immediately. So in the graph editor, it's just one key after another. And then on the second key, that's when you'll move your other stuff into position. So I'll move this like close in, and then let's use this aim to be like on her face for like a close-up or something, boom, right there. So that's over one frame. We just key it. And then as the character is moving, boom, there you go. We might need some linear tangents on that. Otherwise, we're going to get some weird results. Boom. And then in the viewport, you'll be like, okay, cool, establishing shot, and then boom, instant cut. So that's how we cheat it for a play blast. But when you render it out, you'd use 2 cameras for that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. No problem. All right. Any other questions?
My tears considered an appropriate turn-in for the final.
For the final? No. Only videos.
Okay. Damn it.
Videos of tears, maybe. But yeah.
I thought I'd give it a shot.
Good. Yeah. Sorry, class.
I have to key these foot controls now, right? So they actually go. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think I'm just gonna go stare off into space and then rewatch all your videos, Mike.
I recommend just jumping into animating, because it's the best way to learn. It's just by like fucking around with the controls and being like, what works in here,
Yeah, I was doing that with the bird earlier, and I was like, oh, he has wings. There's 5 joints. Okay. Damn it. Yeah, but it is what it is. I've decided I like that his eyes can rotate separately and look really weird. So
hell yeah. Get that chameleon effect.
Yeah. Very strange.
I still don't know the difference between IK and FK, but still I kind of know what not to do with them. That's fair. I can get another shot of it at explaining, and I'll just use simple shapes to like that are limited, so it kind of makes more sense, There we go. Oops. There we go. we go, and then duplicating this again. Aha. Aha. Okay, so child, parent, P, beep, child, parent, P, beep. There we go. So here's my very cool FK arm. Very cool, very advanced. It's got a nice hand on it as well. That's gonna bend out weird, whatever. But FK is basically like think about it. Like if you were in Maya and you're like, oh, how can I get this hand to reach this cone, the tip of this cone, and you're in FK, like we couldn't just do this. We couldn't just drag the hand over there because it's just gonna break the hand like that, you know. FK, you can only rotate this, so you'd have to like rotate each different piece. Oh my God! Wait 1 second. There we go. Does this help? No, I need to create or edit group pivot, parent, preserve position. Bop. Then bop. So I have to like set up a basic, like a small boy rig in here. There we go, group. Oh my God, no. No. Well, basically, like you'd have to rotate this to that cone somehow, right? Instead of just moving it with this endpoint. IK lets you just move that endpoint and then it solves the in-between stuff over here. It solves this, so then you don't, it like figures that out for you, you know. So then you could physically move it into space. FK is basically gonna just rotate each of these chunks one at a time. Like you can only set rotational keys most of the time, and that's how you get to different points. You just rotate them all. Of course, this hand would follow that joint right there. So IK, yeah, IK, you move the endpoint, and then it figures out the stuff in between. So it's like, okay, so I have to move this over here, then move this over here, so then it can reach over there. So you basically, IK, you're moving that end point of the control first. FK, you're kind of just moving like you're rotating each individual one.
Chunk.
Yeah.
So IK is like you're in charge, and FK is kind of like you do have to work with the rig a little more.
Yeah, yeah. IK, you tell it 100% where that control is at all times. Like these feet are IK. Oops. Oh, I've deleted everything. No. One second, let me open up the scene again. Oh, second demo. Beep. But yeah, you'll be able to see on this rig, especially because she's all stretchy. So yeah, select if you're dealing an IK like this foot, I'm just telling that endpoint to move wherever. And then it's solving to figure out where it's going to place that knee, you know, and the rest of the hip.
Yeah, yeah.
In FK, you have to tell it exactly where this shoulder is pointing, where this elbow is pointing as well, in order to get that last hand into position right there. That last.
You said solve, and like it all clicked.
That it clicked there, right, with solve. Okay. I'll remember that for future semesters. Interesting. Solve. Yeah, so IK basically solves like where the rest of these the limb is based on this endpoint. So you tell it this endpoint, and it figures that out for you.
How do we switch it back to fourth to IK?
Oh yeah. So it'll be different for every rig.
Oh, no.
But like these ones, it's like a little point on the back of the wrist. See how it's like it has this free floating little star in here? That's your IK FK switch, and then you'll find on there They usually find a node that's called IKFK, IKFK blend, IKFK switch, and then you'll know it's either a 0 or 1. So you want to be on either one of those. So if I press 1 in here and press enter, it's now in IK mode, and then behaves the same as any IK.
What is showing the basic rig that we were using?
Yeah. Let's open up. I believe I have Matt's file. There we go. So on the basic rigs, it's this control right here. See here?
Oh, I gotta find that.
It's this. It's going to be right next to wherever your wrist is in the world. See how it follows that wrist? And it's going to be this thin little arrow right here.
Okay, thank you.
Hell yeah. No problem. No problem.
That's a lot easier because I was using the shoulders as the main guide for everything.
Mm-hmm. So are you using IK arms now instead of FK or something, or what?
Yeah, just to test it out to see if it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
So it's like more time consuming if I just use the other one.
Yeah, they both have their strengths and weaknesses. So neither is going to be perfect for what you're doing, unfortunately. IK makes a lot more sense. I've noticed for when we're first animating. I used to animate all my arms in IK, no matter what they were doing. But now I'm kind of an FK fiend as well. So I've come full circle, I guess. But yeah, I'll just be hanging out for a while. We'll probably hang out until 9, and I'll just be answering questions for y'all. So please just take this time to animate. If you want feedback on a scene, I'm more than happy to provide it. If you're running into problems, I'm here to help. Hell yeah, Keely's got it.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, what's up?
I ran into a quick problem with my thing. Could you help me out real fast?
100%. That's what I'm here for.
I'm gonna share my screen. Hold on, there's a loud ass airplane passing by.